Just me and you solo today. So I want to start casting, and the topic's going to be about media, the power of information, different ways we're starting to get it, different ways we're starting to doubt it. And so we're going to talk about that for a few minutes. So let's start casting. All right, so I've noticed some years ago, Edward Leighton, guy over there across the pond in 1839, said the pen is mightier than the sword. And he's a philosopher and an author and a fairly well-known for his time and for some of his pieces. The pen is mightier than the sword is a very interesting kind of anecdotal deep dive here that we're going to go over. Why would the pen, in his mind, be mightier than the sword in 1839 when literally the majority of all human beings on the planet did not write one bit? Well, who did was kind of, in my opinion, important to drill down on here. Who did write in 1839, and what was Mr. Lytton looking at? What was he seeing and what was he prophesying? Why was the pen mightier than the sword? If somebody's coming after me in a parking lot at 11 o'clock at night with their pen, they got their pen and it's drawn, I'm probably not going to be that terribly nervous about anything. And unless they're, a big, huge fella, then okay, I might have to outrun them. But that doesn't seem like it makes sense for its time. 1839, or a sword, I think I'd probably be a little bit more concerned about the sword. But the reality is all wars are started with this. All wars are started with the writing of something, a declaration of war, a law, a this, a that. They're all started by this. And those back in 1839 that knew how to write knew how to control the information. So now, here we are in 2023, and information being controlled is obviously something of concern for all of us. We turn on the news stations nowadays that are kind of dying off, in my opinion, and we need to go searching for our own information nowadays, because the reality is TV as we knew it, or broadcasting as we know it, is kind of dying. Do I really buy into what Fox is saying? Do I really buy into what CNN is saying? Do I really buy into what The View is saying? Holy Lord, no. Can you give me more? Can you find a gaggle of chicks that are stupider than those? Anyway, all I'm saying here is information and the controlling of this information is what Mr. Lytton was talking about. And the pen truly is mightier than the sword when you put it in that context, because what you believe and what I believe tends to become what culture we create. And so our culture as we know it seems to be crumbling all around us, okay? So we watch this particular news station and it's telling us how terrible things are wherever, and how terrible things are in this state, and how terrible things are in this particular election, or this particular trial, or this particular look. Somewhere back in the 80s, but not very far into the 80s, Don Henley, lead singer for the Eagles, yes, I know things about them, writes a song called Dirty Laundry. Hits it right on the head. People want to be entertained, but they want to be entertained ugly. And the reality here is we pay attention to the plane crash. We pay attention to the bomb drop. We pay attention to the church being lit on fire, or the mass shooting that we are dealing a lot with nowadays. And the reality here is that is information. And so is it the gun's fault? Is it the person that's pulling the trigger's fault? Again, information. We've got laws on the books. Information. You can't break this law, but this person can. Why is there a double standard of justice that we got going on right now? So there's a lot of interesting panic going on to a small degree right now, in my opinion, on this informational kind of cluster. So this informational cluster, what does one do? Well, what I do is I like to look at many different viewpoints on one particular topic that concerns me as a fella in society. It concerns me as a father. It concerns me as a provider. And so I will want to see many different aspects of what exactly is going on. And that way I can kind of come to my own conclusion. The one conclusion I have come to is most people are the same kind of crazy as me. Most people that I roll and bump into during any day, any given time, seem to be folks that are just similarly situated. It doesn't matter if they're what color skin they've got. It doesn't matter really anything of that nature. It just seems like we all got a whole lot more in common than what the news folks are telling us. And to me, that's just kind of, all right, let's start there. Let's start with that baseline of, all right, the pen is mightier than the sword. And so they're pushing, and by they, those that write these laws, those that spin these narratives, those that really get people agitated and stirred up and divided over something. It's all about the money. It's all about the views. It's all about the clicks. It's all about our lazy. So how many books need to be written about being fit and healthy? I want to know about this. How many books can they possibly produce? How many diet plans can they throw out there in this billion-dollar industry? When the reality here is you can ask any 6-year-old what's better for you, this donut or this apple. Well, 10 out of 10 are going to tell you the apple. So once you know that, there might be some nuance here and there to eating healthy, but the reality is you know how to eat healthy. You just choose not to. That's it. So information, how much of it is trying to sell us on something or pull us toward something or divide us? And I think that it's a little about all the above. And so I would like to do some of these types of chats as often as possible. And I'd love to have some topics that we can, kind of cruise on and talk about back and forth, some topics that really concern you as a citizen and me as a citizen, and some things that we can kind of bang back and forth and have some fun with it too, because the reality is when I'm walking down the street, I don't see the big, huge problems that everybody sees. I do see that our trucks are costing far too much, or our cars, or our vehicles. I do see that fuel is very, very expensive. I do see that there are a lot of companies and a lot of businesses going under. I do see a lot of that, okay, and that I don't love. And that is the pen is mightier than the sword. But then I do see some divisive language from all sorts of different news sources. Trusted news source. We're trusted. We're this. We're that. We're this. We're that. Donald Trump's being sued for this. Hunter Biden's, working something out in a misdemeanor format, and Joe has documents just the same as the Trump, and Joe, they may get around to doing something about that. They may not. It just seems like there's some strange brew going on, but it feels like most of us have something very in common. It seems like we all want to really have some peace, really have a good opportunity at taking a bite of the American dream, to work and to play and to love and to move along in life in a good, healthy way. And it seems to me like that seems to me that that's the majority of folks that I bump into. And don't understand why so many people are telling me that there's this big divide between myself, a light-skinned fellow, a Caucasian, a white guy, whatever you want to call it, and a person that's black. I have lots of folks that I encounter all the time, whether they are part of or people that we represent here, or people that we work with, or people that we work against, or judges at some of the attorneys around the Hogle Firm encounter all the time. It doesn't matter, and it's never mattered. And I don't know where this I don't know where this division, this divisive thing is that everybody keeps talking about. I am sure that there are some bad actors out there, but there always will be. It just doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of them around here. So, for the most part, it just seems like the majority of people are very accepting one of the other. But we seem to be getting all sorts of weird vibes from this informational outlets. So then I hear about this scenario that is really concerning, and I don't know how much to get a little bit nervous about this or how much conspiracy theorist this becomes. But you've got this comment on one of our feeds discussing, or somebody asking me to discuss deep fake. And that comment wasn't allowed to come through the platform that carried that. It was one of my response videos. I believe it was the Breaking Bad one, but I could be wrong. It could have been my cousin Vanny. Nonetheless, it did come through, and I found that weird. That was like the first thing that's never not come through as far as a comment on the video. Deep fake. So I take a look at it. I had to Google it. It's kind of funny. And deep fake is basically somebody puts my face or has it's very scary. All right. So you can see some of these things on the internet where you have a fake, but it looks very real, Joe Biden, and a fake, but it looks incredibly real, Donald Trump, and they're debating, and they're cussing like truckers, and they're being pretty potty mouthed and slapping each other back and forth, back and forth. Well, that's basically the general concept of deep fake. It is somebody saying something that sounds almost identical to that individual, if not identical to that individual, and it's some person of trust or some person of interest, and whatever you want them to say, whatever you bake up in your mind to say, that person says it on a camera somewhere as though it was that person saying it. So, for example, it would be like somebody interposing Michael Jordan in a chair, just like I'm sitting in right now, and has a perfect image of a current day Michael Jordan, and they somehow, some way get Michael Jordan to say, I bet against all the teams, all the teams in during his 6-year championship run, or I hate Disneyland, even though he's the first person that said, I'm going to Disneyland or something like that. You get him to say something he normally would never in a million years say, or something he normally would not say, period, end of story. But he's influential because we all know who Michael Jordan is. And so you get him to say whatever it is that you want him to say to have that power to influence folks to do something. Okay, and so that's deep fake, and it's pretty scary if you think about how far this could go. So let's say that husband and wife aren't getting along very well, and wife's feeling like she's going to get hosed And she's speculating that he's doing X, Y, Z and not good things. She's speculating, right? That he's stepping out. Wife can get a hold of some of this technology and have some statements that were said and even recorded, and sometimes even live recorded, that would get him into some serious trouble and remove him from her life, frankly, for good. And what I'm thinking of specifically is people that might have children. And we have, and I'm not going to get diverted here, but I will go on a different track in a moment. We have a system in play right now wherein if she were to be able to interpose an admission of him having relationships with their children that were inappropriate, okay? Follow me here, because this is not at all remotely imaginary. This will and could happen, okay? And she presents that as evidence to a detective, and that detective can't smell that that's a deep fake. And then boom, this guy's in prison for a long period of time. She gets all whatever is left or whatever there. She gets, full custody of the kids, so on and so forth. Well, why do I know this could happen? And how do we test the watermarks, and how do we test the spot? How do we test whether or not it's a legitimate video or if it's something that's complete BS? That's going to be something that's going to be, frankly, should be on the forefront of all of our minds. So not only is the pen mightier than the sword, but now we've got the fake pen that's mightier than the sword. And it's some things to be looking out for. Again, let's talk about some things. Hit me with some comments on these. I'd love to discuss information. Where do you get it? How do you get it? And in what format do you get it? Do you get it on your cell phone? Do you get it on your television? Do you get it on the radio? I want to know a lot of these things, so that way I can kind of join the clan there and do what you guys do. I want to be seeing what you guys are seeing. I want to know some of the informational spots that you're getting your information on. I like a few as well. So we'll have that dialogue next go around. Thanks for listening. Hit that like button, that subscribe button, or ring the bell. Let's do this.